Hello, in this tutorial I'm going to be demonstrating how to upgrade your Daylite system. Before we dive into the upgrade procedure, let's take a minute and better understand the Daylite ecosystem. First, we have Daylite for your Mac. Daylite for your Mac also comes with DMA, which stands for Daylite Mail Assistant. Next, we have Daylite for your iPhone and iPad. And finally, your Daylite Server Admin. The Daylite Server Admin is where your database lives and all your devices, whether in the office or remotely, connect back to and sync your database. Now that we have a better understanding of the Daylite ecosystem, let's go through the upgrade procedure. Step 1 is to sync all desktop clients. To do so, go ahead and open up Daylite, navigate to your File menu, and choose Sync. Daylite does synchronize with your server every 5 minutes, but it's always a good idea to do this before an upgrade just to make sure all changes have been synchronized. Once the sync is completed, let's quit Daylite. It's also important that we quit Mail. Step 2 is to synchronize your iOS devices. On the iPad, you'll find the sync button on the bottom left corner. On your iPhone, you'll find the sync button in the top left corner. Step 3 is to turn off the Daylite server and back up your database. Let's go ahead and open up the Daylite Server Admin. The first thing we're going to need to do is unlock the padlock in the bottom left corner. Go ahead and authenticate as an administrator and flip the switch to off. Next, select the Database tab. Before we back up our database, it's always a good idea to make sure that all your devices have recently synced. Down here, we can see the last sync of all your desktop clients, and if I navigate to the iOS devices, I can see the last sync of all iOS devices. Once everything checks out, navigate back to the Database tab and back up your database. Once your backup is complete, quit the Daylite Server Admin. Step 4 is to download and install the latest version of Daylite, Daylite Server, and DMA. To find the latest version of Daylite, let's visit Market Circle's webpage. In the URL, type in -Daylite-downloads. Next, you'll see a page which asks you, which version of Daylite are you upgrading from? And if you're not sure, you can always open up Daylite, select Daylite from the menu bar, and choose About Daylite. This will show you what version of Daylite you're currently running. For this demonstration, we're going to be doing Daylite 4.1 or later. Next, let's go ahead and say Download Daylite, download Daylite Server, and download Daylite Mail Assistant. Once your download has completed, find the DMGs, which most likely will be located in your Downloads folder. It's important to upgrade your Daylite server first, so let's go ahead and do that. Double-click the DMG, and double-click Install Daylite Server. Go ahead and hit Continue and agree to the licensing. Next, let's select Install. It's important to be logged in as an administrator. Once the Daylite server has finished its installation process, it will actually launch Daylite Server for you. Once Daylite Server launches, let's unlock the padlock to turn the server on. Now, just to be sure, let's navigate to the top left Daylite Server Admin menu and choose About Daylite Server. This way you can double check and make sure you have installed the correct version. Now that we've installed the latest update to the Daylite server, let's go ahead and update our desktops with Daylite and DMA. Navigate back to our Downloads folder and double-click the Daylite DMG. Double-click the Install Daylite, select Continue, agree to the licensing, Select Install and authenticate as an administrator. Once the installation is complete, go ahead and close it and unmount the DMG. Next, let's install DMA. Double-click on the DMA DMG, select Continue, agree to the licensing, and install. Let's authenticate as an administrator again. Once the installation is successful, go ahead and close everything and unmount the DMG. Now, just to be sure that we've installed the latest versions, let's open up Daylite. Select Daylite from the top menu bar and choose About Daylite. This will show us the version of Daylite we're currently running. Another good idea is to test the sync and make sure that everything is synchronizing back and forth to your Daylite server okay. Once everything checks out with the sync, open up Mail, navigate to the top menu bar, select Mail, Preferences, choose Daylite, and you'll see About DMA in the latest version. If everything checks out, you have successfully completed your Daylite upgrade.